Go. Paul Manafort has flipped. Last week, the former Trump campaign chair reached a plea deal with special counsel Robert Mueller. Manafort pleaded guilty to conspiracy against the U.S. and conspiracy to obstruct justice. As part of the deal, Manafort has agreed to cooperate fully and truthfully with Mueller's inquiry. Manafort also avoids a second trial. He was previously convicted of 8 counts of financial fraud stemming from his work in Ukraine before joining the Trump campaign in 2016. President Trump has repeatedly asserted that the special counsel is conducting a witch hunt, even though Mueller has gotten guilty pleas from several other former Trump advisors, George Papadopoulos, Michael Cohen, and Michael Flynn. So what does Manafort's turn mean for President Trump? I spoke with Tyler Grant, a legal analyst with Young Voices. To start, I asked for his reaction to the plea deal.
I think it was expected. We saw that he pleaded guilty in the Eastern District of Virginia. He was convicted in the Eastern District of Virginia, and so he goes to the D.C. court and pleads guilty. It's going to be interesting to see what happens as far as the cooperation. It's a very loose plea agreement, which is to be expected in these kind of situations. But it's a lot of people on Twitter are commenting that it's going to be. He can only comment on certain aspects of his particular conspiracy, things like that. That's not true. He can comment on anything that he wants and provide the government with any and all evidence, and he's going to be expected to.
He was one of the key figures in that infamous Trump Tower meeting back in 2016 where Donald Trump Jr. was promised dirt on Hillary Clinton. Do you think that's going to be one of the big things that Special Counsel Robert Mueller's team is going to be looking at?
Yeah, I think that there's 2 things that Robert Mueller cares about. The one thing being the Trump Tower meeting, and the other being any obstruction of justice that took place after the Comey firing and all the Trump reactions from that. I think that Paul Manafort is going to be able to provide a lot of color on the meeting, as well as any and all relationship with Trump type information that he can provide. The meeting obviously is extremely important, and he being one of the players in the meeting is one of the first Bob Mueller kind of informants on what happened in that meeting. And whatever comes from that is going to be telling on the Trump presidency and certainly on the Mueller investigation. I mean, this is the deepest that we've got into the inquiry. And so I think he's going to be one of the biggest players that Mueller's ever going to nab before we see, a Trump family member indicted or under a more deeper investigation, I suppose.
How has the White House responded to Manafort's plea deal?
Well, you saw a couple weeks ago, I guess it was, where Trump said that he was proud of Paul Manafort for not flipping and staying strong. You get kind of the sense from the president that he views everything as some sort of 1970s mob movie in some way, where it's like, stay strong in the can, don't flip on me, and so it's kind of weird. I mean, you saw that with Cohen, and you've seen that with some of his other lackeys that have come in and out of the White House. I get the sense that now that will change, and I anticipate the Kavanaugh hearing is giving him a little bit of a distraction from that, which I'm sure White House counsel office is thankful for. But I imagine that when his focus comes on this, we will see some sort of commentary on that. I mean, that was the big thing that a lot of people were thinking, and I myself thought this, that when it didn't go to trial and Manafort accepted a plea agreement, the nation and the president was sort of spared himself from having to comment on a day-to-day trial. And so the fact that he pleaded guilty, he's now under Bob Mueller's assistance, we are kind of spared from that. So we'll see.
President Trump has been very active on Twitter about, the Michael Cohen situation, but since Paul Manafort's plea deal, he's really said nothing, commented nothing about that. What do you think? What is your take on Mr. Trump's silence on the deal?
Yeah, I think he probably doesn't know. I mean, like with anything else, those that are in the know aren't talking about it, and those that are talking about it don't know. And I imagine that there isn't many insights. I mean, this is actually in praise of Mueller. I mean, their group has been one of the tightest no leaks groups to investigate anyone that I've ever seen about anything. And I think that makes it's sort of a black box for the president and trying to determine where they're going to go. I think a couple things to look for. Pardons on the table, tweets are certainly on the table, and there is the possibility that if they spin the political narrative in the right way, they could just shut down the investigation entirely. I think if pre-blue wave, that would be a catastrophic problem for him politically, and likely would end up in an impeachment. But I mean, all those options are on the table, and certainly if he feels that he's in legal jeopardy or his family members are in legal jeopardy, it's certainly not off the table.
What do you think is the likelihood of either him pardoning Manafort, and what would the ramifications be, election and post-election, if Democrats, say, win back the House?
The odds of him pardoning Manafort, I would say, are higher than zero. He's pardoned more people than I expected him to pardon, and he's pardoned people in a political way versus other presidents who have pardoned, or at least more recent presidents who have pardoned in a more a way in which they were recommended people, and they pardoned in some sort of like policy-centered thing, like unjust criminal justice reform types of ways. This would be a political pardon of a scale of which we haven't seen since Nixon, and I think pre-blue wave would guarantee a blue wave. And if a blue wave does happen, I think that a pardon of Paul Manafort would result in the beginning of impeachment proceedings. Not to say that it would guarantee an impeachment, because I don't think that, despite how negatively Democrats perceive the president, there are some Democrats that aren't in favor of impeachment. I feel like I saw some poll the other day that said that 56% of people more generally are opposed to impeachment. Obviously, the circumstances changing might move that barometer a little bit, but I'm not seeing that being a guarantee.
White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders responded to the Manafort plea deal. She said it had absolutely nothing to do with the president or his campaign. President Trump himself has not commented on it. We're back in 2 minutes.